Lumos. Lumos. Lumos Maxima. Before we begin, let's address the J.K. Rowling in the room. None of the following is an endorsement of her views. You know how many transphobic tweets Tolkien has written? With that in mind, let's crack on. So, Harry Potter.
British people be like, Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Oi.
They're taking the mick out of us.
Dad! What are you doing with my Harry Potter wand?
And the Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings is the #1 trilogy. Ask Dom Monahan, or you can ask Billy.
Sean Astin's here too? Well, that's actually silly.
Will Elijah Wood join us? I don't know, Willie.
A Strider, some riders, Golem, a spider. We got a gray wizard and we got one that's wider.
Best drill ever, baby, don't you forget.
That's right, Anna Kendrick, pitch perfect ain't.
What the hell?
Both are hugely popular franchises. So popular in fact that Harry Potter ended up on the list of banned names in Australia. By the way, iMac is on there too, but not iPhone. It's a weird list. Such prominence of fantasy in pop culture reflects our yearning to experience magic, and technology creators look for ways to deliver. Take the word automagically, for instance. It's been used to promote tech since at least the 1940s. It's still being used today to describe apps and digital services. The idea is, when things happen automatically, when it just works, the user experience becomes magical. I, for one, don't find that way of thinking all that convincing though. When things happen automatically, they often don't feel like magic. In fact, you might not notice them happening at all, since it just works. Which begs the question, how do you actually design tech that feels like magic?
You know, it's true. When something exceeds your ability to understand how it works, it sort of becomes magical.
Apple loves promoting their products and features as magical.
And for her next trick, it's here. Now it's there. Sorcery.
That was a Mac advert, but this feature feels even more magical when performed using gestures between an iPhone and an iPad. There's a kind of delightful confusion we feel when we see a great magic trick.
So would you please reach in there, take another one for me if you would, and you've got another one face up. Very nice, with 3 clubs, I love it. So now, gentlemen, you can put the card back in, you remembered it, you showed it to the camera, you can put it back in any way you like, face up or face down. It's completely up to you. Yeah, slide it in there, absolutely. So you see it going in, and which way? Do you want to put it back in face up or
face down?
Great, slide it right in there for me if you would. So look, we'll even leave it sticking out so you see it there up until the very last moment. Now look, at this point, some cards are face up, some cards are face down. Look, I'm not even going to touch them. I'm just going to let them sit there. And if I let them sit there, they start to move all on their own. They start to turn over. So now every card is facing the right way. Every card is now face up, except for one. Except for 2, the only 2. And hopefully, lucky for me, they are your 2 cards.
Wait, what? How? Advanced technology can leave us feeling wonderstruck in much the same way. Back to the iPad. Did you know that the Apple Pencil casts a shadow on the digital sheet of paper as you draw? The shadow isn't the shape of the Apple Pencil itself, but of the tool you use. Switch tools and the shadow changes. Now it's shaped like the eraser on the end of a real pencil. The shadow responds to how you hold the pencil, its tilt, the angle, and how close it is to the iPad. Wait, what? How? There's that famous quote from Sir Arthur C. Clarke: "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." Does it have to go the other way around though? Does something have to be inexplicably advanced to feel magical? Let's talk about magnets, shall we?
Yeah, that did it! Yeah! Magnets! Oh!
Apple also has a consistent history of using magnets in its products. To give you just a couple of examples, in 2004 they introduced a magnetic mount for iSight, which was their webcam brand. Then, nearly 20 years later, in 2022, they encouraged third-party accessory makers to create magnetic iPhone mounts, as Apple introduced a feature that allowed Macs to use the far superior iPhone cameras instead of the built-in webcams.
Let me show you how it works. Now, I'm just going to pop this stand on my iPhone and attach it to my display. Let's launch FaceTime. You can see my Mac automatically detects my iPhone and uses it as the camera. I don't even have to wake up my iPhone. This all works wirelessly, so there's nothing...
Going back to 2004, that year Apple also introduced the iMac G5, which also shipped with a remote. Both the iMac and the remote had plastic enclosures, and yet you could magically, well, magnetically, attach the remote to the side of the iMac. Fast forward about 15 years to 2018, when Apple introduced the new Apple Pencil, now designed to attach to the side of the iPad Pro.
The new Apple Pencil attaches magnetically to the iPad Pro. It automatically pairs and starts charging wirelessly.
Apple, of course, couldn't resist calling the new feature magical. This time, however, the copy was uncharacteristically self-aware. Magic, right? It's actually magnets, but we'll take it. Apple wouldn't be Apple if it didn't try to work that magnetic magic into its software too. Take Final Cut Pro, Apple's video editing app. One of its flagship features is called the magnetic timeline. Essentially, clips on the timeline act like they've got magnetic properties. Normally, clips stay in their own swim lanes, called tracks, but in the magnetic timeline, related clips attach to each other and move together. And if you take a clip out, the surrounding clips magnetically snap together. There's more to it, and it takes some getting used to for video editors coming from other apps. But for many, this very feature becomes the reason to stick with Final Cut Pro.
The magnetic timeline is often one of the most difficult parts to comprehend with Final Cut Pro when you first start out, but once you grasp it, it is easily Final Cut Pro's most powerful tool.
The magnetic timeline, which is pretty much the single greatest feature of Final Cut Pro and really what sets it apart from other NLEs like Avid Media Composer, Premiere Pro, and of course DaVinci Resolve.
By the way, if you're coming from a different video editing software, this is probably what's going to trip you up more than anything, is the magnetic timeline. But if you're new to video editing, this is the thing that will make you never want to leave Final Cut Pro, because the magnetic timeline is the best.
Magnets don't exceed our ability to understand. We understand how magnets work. There are magnetic fields, and there's a North Pole and a South Pole, and there are penguins on the South Pole. And when they see the North Pole, they are gravitated towards it. And when they see other penguins from the South Pole, they are repelled because there's some kind of beef, right? Yeah, there is a beef between the penguins, which makes them... Magnets are not some advanced technology, is my point. And yet, they feel magical. How come?
These are the 10 types of magic. Levitation, vanish, production, transformation, transposition, penetration, restoration, escape, teleportation, and prediction.
Things feel magical when they defy a sense of what's possible. That's why magnets feel that way. They make inanimate objects move.
Oh no.
Or even levitate.
It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
Tell Siri Lumos, and the torch comes on. Say Nox, and it will switch off. It's a silly party trick, and yet uttering an incantation that illuminates the room does feel a bit magical. Because it's not about how advanced the technology is. It's about how it makes you feel. It's not about whether it exceeds your ability to understand how it's done. It's about how it makes you feel. Remember how Gandalf nearly failed to open the gates of Moria. So when you open the gates of the London Tube with just a wave of your hand, it makes you feel cooler than Gandalf. Bit of a side note, when you tap in and out of the tube, make sure you're using the same device, not just the same card. Meaning if you tap in with your watch, tap out with the watch too, not your phone, or it won't register how far you've actually traveled. Don't ask me how I know these things, I'm just a knowledgeable kind of person, I guess. Anyway, if you think one does not simply create magical experiences without some inexplicably advanced tech, I'd encourage you to reconsider. Sometimes all it takes is noticing what feels magical.
I don't know if that ever happened to you, but if you go through like this might happen.
And recreating it using the tried and tested approach called interaction design.
Can I have your print?
Merci.
Go. Wow.
Blimey, so much talk about feelings. Are we in a Hallmark Christmas film? That's the problem with definitions that rely on subjective experience. For every example I've given, we could go back and forth on whether it feels magical to most people. Let's not do that. What I think is more important to explore is yet another subjective aspect of how we experience magic. To unpack that, let's take a closer look at one major difference between Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings. So the titular character of Harry Potter is a wizard.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Frodo Baggins, on the other hand, is not a magician himself. He's just mates with someone who is.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
And if we look more closely at magical tech experiences, we start to notice the same distinction. Take Facebook's On This Day feature that shows you a memory from the same date in years past. Now compare that to macOS Time Machine.
So, I'm going to, again, open my Finder, and I'm going to search for a really important presentation that I was making on architecture. And, oh my God, it's not there. This should have been there. And so I'm freaking out right now. Where did it go? And so I'm going to activate Time Machine just by clicking on this icon. And there it is. And what I can do, it's still, you see, it still has architecture in the search field. And matter of fact, it has architecture in every search field back through time. And to go back and search through time, all I have to do is push this arrow, and it's now searching through time until Spotlight finds stuff having to do with architecture.
Facebook just hands you a pre-selected memory, whereas a Time Machine feels like a time machine because it lets you wander through the past. Personally, I sometimes use it not to recover a document, but to walk through the history of a document I've been shaping over time. In other words, Facebook's On This Day is Dumbledore handing you a memory vial he's chosen for you. Whereas Time Machine is you turning the time turner's hourglass yourself. For another comparison, let's take Spotify Wrapped, that end-of-year recap of your most played songs, albums and artists, all neatly packaged. Now, contrast that with the smart playlists in the desktop version of Apple Music, which let you set your own rules to filter songs from your library. You can set it up to show tracks you've added this year, and that have made it into your top 10 most played songs. And if there are tracks you'd rather never hear again, like the ones you've played heaps for your kids or your nieces and nephews, you can filter those out too. Look, from a product perspective, Spotify Wrapped is better, hands down. It's a beloved feature that goes viral come December, and Apple is still struggling to recreate it with Music Rewind. Still, I wanted to point out how different they feel to use. Spotify Wrapped is like a memory potion gifted to you by an alchemist. Adding rules to a smart playlist, on the other hand, is like tossing experimental ingredients into a cauldron and then seeing which songs the resulting concoction draws out. The difference in these comparisons is the difference between tech being empowered to do the work for you and tech empowering you to do the work. Okay, what of it? When does that distinction matter? There are two common themes when it comes to AI branding. First, sparkles everywhere. Maybe even a wand. AI is magical, you see? Then there's this portrayal of AI as a separate entity. An assistant, a copilot, a companion. Put the two together and what you've got is a wizard friend who's willing to perform magic on your behalf. The tech industry seems to be shifting its focus, aiming to create magical experiences that do the work for you. All sorts of work. Here's a tweet from a psychologist, Adam Grant.
It's a mistake to outsource most writing to AI. Even if the output is accurate and engaging, something valuable is lost in the process. Jotting down intuitions and spelling out hunches is how we develop and refine our ideas. Writing is where we do our best thinking.
And here's a thread from a tech investor, Paul Graham, independently written on the same day.
I just realized something most people are going to lose when, as they inevitably will, they start using AIs to write everything for them. They'll lose the knowledge of how writing is constructed. This is a very common kind of knowledge to be lost as technology progresses. Very few people now know how to weave cloth or turn pots or make baskets. But it's strange to think that writing will now enter this category. And indeed, I worry that something much bigger will be lost when most people stop writing. It's not that big a loss if you don't weave your own cloth. But writing is thinking. So if people stop writing, that's a whole kind of thinking they'll stop doing. Schools may think they're going to stem this tide, but we should be honest about what's going to happen. Writing is hard, and people don't like doing hard things. So adults will stop doing it, and it will feel very artificial to most kids who are made to. Writing, and the kind of thinking that goes with it, will become like making pottery. Little kids will do it in school, a few specialists will be amazingly good at it, and everyone else will be unable to do it at all.
Tolkien had to remove Gandalf for most of Frodo's journey so that the Hobbit could learn and grow. After all, you can't develop a skill if you've never been given the chance to fail.
Shut up, Harry.
So the next time you experience a bit of tech magic, it's worth considering. Does it feel like watching Gandalf work his wizardry? Or feel like being Harry Potter yourself?
I am no man.
Well, maybe Hermione Granger then. My name is Alex. I'm from the internet. I've noticed that most YouTube channels about user experience, research and design speak to either seasoned professionals or to people trying to break into the field. The magic trick I'm trying to pull off is to create a series about user experience that anyone can enjoy. Stay tuned for my next attempt, which is going to be about mixed reality.
on a minute. I've been saying his name. I was saying Tolkien, but it's not pronounced like that. It's Tolkien.